Hello, I'm so glad to see you here in yet another wrap-up video on my channel. It's raining outside again, which gives us a perfect opportunity to stay cozy indoors with a cup of hot tea and chit-chat a little bit about some books I've recently read. Let's start with my small Christmas mystery readings. I read 4 books about murders during the Christmas season. And in fact, I've already made the whole separate video about that. So if you want to see me get annoyed by one of the books in this category, feel free to check it out. I will leave a link in the description. But if not, no worries, I will go over them here. The first book I read is An English Murder by Cyril. This book, published in 1951, it is already classic of Christmas detective genre. The story revolves around the not-so-large family and a few friends gathering to celebrate Christmas. And as you might expect, a murder disrupts their festivities. This is a short book, the one you can finish in an evening, and I liked it. I didn't guess the murderer or the motives, which kept things intriguing until the end, which is cool, and the title fits perfectly. This thing could only happen in England at that time. That said, the book lacks the human element for my taste. We don't learn much about the characters' experiences, problems or pasts, but I suppose that's a hallmark of older literature, and it wouldn't be fair to judge it by modern standards. I should warn you that the narration could be a little bit dry, however not without its own charm and humor, and to fully appreciate it, in my opinion, you'd probably need either to have lived during that era or to have a solid grasp of English history. Overall, I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it and I spent a very good time with it. Next, I picked up Murder for Christmas by Francis Duncan. This book is quite similar to the previous one, but was published 2 years earlier and features a professional detective. And to me, it felt less dry as all the characters had more depth, emotions and backstory. Our main character absorbs everything carefully, which adds to the atmosphere I was looking for. Everyone and everything is a bit odd in this book, but there is a satisfying explanation at the end, which is very cool. I should admit I enjoyed this book more than An English Murder for these reasons. However, I still gave it 4 stars because, well, it was not perfect. It was better, but not perfect. This third book I read was The Christmas Murder Game by Alexandra Benedict. And this is a book I ranted about in my Christmas video, and for a good reason. I didn't like it. This book is hilarious, but unintentionally hilarious. The premise is absurd. An old woman who owns a huge mansion decides to create a game for her children and nephews to decide who will inherit the house, instead of just writing a will. Well, alright, but she clearly had a favorite, our main character Lily, and wanted her to inherit the mansion, so there was no need for the game. And yet, the game exists, and Lily herself joins the game only because her aunt claims to have hidden clues about Lily's mother's death in the puzzles. This setup is ridiculously contrived and cruel. Unsurprisingly, many people end up dying, which makes the whole thing even more absurd. The murderers' identity and motives are easy to figure out. Solving them doesn't feel rewarding because everything else is so nonsensical. The only thing I liked about this book was an acknowledgement section, which included a word search I am proud to have solved. I gave it 2 stars just for unintended hilarity and the puzzles for the reader to get busy while reading this. Unfortunately, after that, I made the mistake of picking up another book by the same author, The Murder on the Christmas Express. But to my surprise, it was not a very huge mistake, because this book is very different, and in my opinion, better. Though people's reviews disagree with me, but what can I do? The setup here is more believable. Everything happens on a train where our characters just happen to be passengers, and the murders all occur in locked compartment were genuinely interesting, at least for me. However, there is a problem too. Obviously, this book tries to be too profound. The cover and the description, you would never expect it to delve into traumatic and triggering topics. And I think the potential readers should be warned about this in advance. Overall, it was an average 3-star read. I wouldn't recommend it, obviously, but I wouldn't call it the worst read of the year too. That honor is likely goes to the previous book. After that, I picked up Divine Rebels by Rebecca Rose, and I have it in this gorgeous edition. Look at that. Wonderful gold and wonderful stars. The book is set in a world at war between powerful gods. However, this premise takes a backseat to focus on ordinary people caught in the conflict. The genre I adored in my teenage years. I'm a strange girl, you see. The story follows 2 journalists competing for a columnist position in the same newspaper. That's why they're called rivals. However, I couldn't see that at all. Yes, they make somewhat nasty jokes towards each other and sneer, but for me the interactions felt more like a playful banter between friends rather than genuine animosity. But apart from their rivalry at work, they were very quickly, at the timeline, start to communicate normally and exchange somewhat personal feelings and emotions. And actually, I have a quote to prove my point. Here. She missed irritating him by rearranging his desk. She missed stealing glances at his horribly handsome face, the rare sight of his smile and the fleeting sound of his laughter. She missed striking a banter with him, even if it was most often to see who could outsnark who. Those are not thoughts of an enemy, they are into each other from the start. Just didn't realize it. And everyone in that newspaper saw that. And honestly, I prefer it that way. I've never been the lover of enemies to lovers trope, because the idea of moving from real hatred towards person to love is beyond my comprehension. But here, characters have lovely and likable personalities, and their budding relationships was a joy to read. Of course, there are some misunderstandings. We can't go without them in the romantic stories, can we? But at least they act adequate in regard to it. To my liking, my favorite parts were their letters exchanged through magical mechanism. It was very exciting to follow their conversation, because Roman, our male read, knows who he is writing to, but Iris, our female lead, does not. These letters are deeply personal and reveals our characters' true selves, which was simply beautiful. The only thing that puzzled me, and honestly I still want to know the answer, was the mechanics of this letter exchange. How did it work for 3 people in the past? Did they have to specify a recipient, but our main characters never do that? Or did all their letters appear under others' wardrobes? If so, wouldn't their correspondence be lying around in the museum somewhere? But this is just my curiosity talking. It does not detract from the story. I like the book. I give it 5 stars. But the ending just broke my heart. That was very cruel. When you're attached so much to really nice characters, events like that are literally heartbreaking. And now I don't know how to approach the sequel after that. I'm not ready. Please help somebody. Well, if you haven't read this book yet, but plan to, I highly recommend it. To recover from that emotional devastation, I decided to finish my year on a lighter, heartwarming note with Heartstopper Volume 1 by Oseman. And this book is utterly adorable. I wish books like that had existed when I was 15. It's about two boys who quickly become friends and then fall in love. Their writing and art style are light and sunny, yet the story also touches on important topics like abusive relationships and insecurity. One moment I loved very much was when one of the boys typed out a message, then erased it, then typed it again, and then erased it again, and finally he sent just one emoji. Very relatable. I adore this book. I give it 5 stars. I'll definitely continue this series, and I'm glad that stories like this exist. They truly make the world a better place. And that's all the books I wanted to talk about in this wrap-up video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or if you're planning to pick them up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content from me. Good luck, happy reading, and see you next time.